Yeah, and you thought slipping on a banana peel was just in cartoons.
This is...
All of us have had clumsy moments when we aren't exactly at our best and maybe we fall or stub our toe or even break something. Not a good situation to be in because people are going to laugh at you, but hey, at least that wasn't the last thing you ever did. The following are real stories of a select group of people who paid the ultimate price and became eternally locked in a legacy of embarrassment. These are the 10 most embarrassing ways people have died. Number 1 is the clumsy daredevil. On July 25th, 1911, Englishman Bobby Leach became the second person ever to survive going over Niagara Falls. Leach accomplished the feat by encasing himself within a fortified barrel, which protected him as he rushed over the massive waterfall. The stunt actually put him in the hospital for 6 months with broken kneecaps and a fractured jaw, but believe it or not, that couldn't keep him down. Soon after, he was on a world tour to brag about what he had done. However, what did keep him down ended up being an orange peel. Yep. While touring New Zealand in February of 1926, Leach slipped on an orange peel and broke his leg. His injury became infected and then became gangrenous, so doctors decided to amputate. On April 26, 1926, Leach succumbed to failing health at 69 years old, his body unable to handle his recovery. That's right, he survived an incredible 187-foot fall off of a rushing waterfall, only to slip up and get taken out by a piece of fruit. See, this is why you should always throw away your banana and orange peels. You might end up killing someone. Number 2 is crushed by stone boobies. On May 17th, 2006, 58-year-old Hungarian artist and sculptor Maeli Gubis was crushed by his own artistic creation in Mundelsheim, Germany. He and another sculptor were trying desperately to load his beautiful 24-foot, 3,300-pound sculpture onto the back of a truck. The giant artistic expression, titled Woman with Four Breasts, was falling to one side when he tried to push it back with the force of his body. His attempt to balance the piece only made the situation worse when it fell directly on him, crushing him under the hard excess boobage and killing him immediately. Prior to this incident, he was forced to give up his career as a guitarist when he accidentally lost a finger in a print shop accident. No stranger to accidents, he again misjudged a decision to throw himself in harm's way rather than just let his art be destroyed and ended up paying dearly for it. I don't think this is what most guys are talking about when they say they want to be crushed by some boobs. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Number 3 is death by orgasmatron. In Malaga, Spain, police found a 65-year-old German electrician named Manfred Lubitz dead in his apartment. In a very awkward situation, Manfred had been hooked up to an electrical device of his own creation, which he affectionately named the orgasmatron. This device consisted of massage pads, a vibrating mat, and a few electrodes which were secured to his junk. While he watched a special movie that we'll refer to simply as something something nuns, his pleasure machine worked its magic. Things were going swell for our pervertedly crafty friend until the orgasmatron was hit by the one thing you would never want such a device to be hit by, a power surge. The surge traveled through the device and hit him right in his junk, which became electrified, ending the poor man's life. Now that's what you call a sad ending, but in a way, I guess he died doing what he loved most, testing out his new inventions and himself. Number 4 is wound up tight. On August 11th, 1987, 47-year-old Paul G. Thomas, co-owner of George Thomas & Sons Textile Company, was working on a pinwheel dresser at his wood mill. The dresser takes yarn from a big spool and winds it onto a smaller one with the help of a giant motor. This was an ordinary Tuesday afternoon at the mill for Paul until he fell onto the smaller spool and found himself caught up in the yarn transfer. Before he knew it, he was being rapidly wrapped up in wool and it was starting to constrict and squeeze the air out of him. By the end of the ordeal, Paul was no longer visible as he'd become part of a massive 800-foot spool. When his co-workers finally found him, he was completely buried in the fabric, and by the time he was unraveled, he had already suffocated. Do not underestimate the power of factory machinery, because it will murder you if you don't take extra care while operating it, baby. Though Mr. Thomas was successful in his textile business, it ultimately led to his undoing. Number 5 is beaten with his own leg. In September of 1649, English military leader Oliver Cromwell and his forces attacked the town of Drogheda, Ireland. This attack was part of a conquest of Ireland during the Wars of the Three Kingdoms, or the British Civil War. The town was held by Sir Arthur Aston, a man with only one leg who refused to surrender. Cromwell had led a successful siege against the town, and soon they had cornered Aston and 200 of his men in Millmount Fort. Cromwell then offered them a surrender agreement that would spare everyone's lives, and Aston had little choice to agree to the terms. He and his men laid down their arms and were led to a windmill where, surprise surprise, they were massacred. But Aston had his head bashed in by his own wooden false leg, which the soldiers believed was full of gold coins. Surrendering to a dishonest enemy who turns around and slaughters you is one thing, but being beaten to death with your own false limb is some sort of evil overkill. Damn, Cromwell, that's cold, bruh. Number 6 is died protesting safety. On July 2nd, 2011, 55-year-old Philip A. Contos was riding his 1983 Harley-Davidson motorcycle as he made his way through the town of Onondaga, New York. A firm believer that motorcycle helmets were unnecessary, Contos was enjoying the summer wind in his hair when, around 1:30 p.m., something ahead made him suddenly hit the brakes. His bike fishtailed and the force sent him over the handlebars. Striking the pavement head first, he was rushed to the hospital but soon after died. Coincidentally, Contos' tragic accident was witnessed by many of the over 550 men and women that he was riding with. The crazy part is that they were all part of a group known as American Bikers Aimed Towards Education, or ABATE for short. Ironically, the organization was riding through town in a yearly protest against the New York state law that mandated the use of helmets when riding, but Contos' doctor, as well as witnesses to the accident, claimed that if he had worn the very helmet that he was protesting, it would have saved his life. Number 7 is the worst stage dive. On July 20th, 2005, rock band Bad Beat Review had just booked a gig at the last minute to replace another band at a show in Leeds, England. During their performance, 29-year-old lead singer Patrick Sherry decided to pull a classic rock star move and leap off the stage into the crowd. He aimed to jump and grab onto the stage lighting rig suspended above the crowd before falling, but the whole act went awry. He failed to grasp the lighting rig and instead caused himself to flip upside down and land head first on the solid wood floor amongst the crowd. A victim of his own self-confidence and poor acrobatic skills, Patrick had just lethally smashed his noggin while attempting to be an epic rock star. He was rushed to hospital where he was pronounced dead the next day. His older brother Brendan compared his stage presence to a caged animal set free. Unfortunately, that animal was clearly not a cat because he did not land on his feet. Number 8 is a man and his chicken. In 1990, an unnamed 39-year-old man in Ourense, Spain, was hidden amongst some large boulders. A frequent visitor to the area, he was enjoying a night of sexual deviancy that, seriously, nobody should ever long for. The man was engaged in some pants-down thrusting activity with, his chicken. While the man moved his pelvis back and forth, he managed to shake a massive rock behind him loose, which tipped over and slid forward down onto him and the poor little emotionally scarred chicken. Pinned, the man and the chicken both died still connected. This is quite the visual. The chicken was quite literally stuck between a rock and a hard place. Poor little clucker. Number 9 is Segwayed away. On September 26, 2010, 62-year-old British multimillionaire and owner of the Segway company, Jimmy Heselden, lost his life due to a combination of being a nice guy, not watching where he was going, and sadly, sucking at controlling his own investment. Heselden was riding his standing two-wheeled electric scooter along a walking trail above the river wharf in Boston Spa, England, when he found himself on a narrow path in front of Sean Christie, another man who was walking his dog. Being a respectful and courteous man, Heselden reversed the Segway to give Christie room to pass, but wound up backing right off the cliff. The businessman fell 42 feet to his death, and his body was soon after found by Christie, floating face down in the river at the bottom of the cliff. Think about that. The man who owned the Segway company segwayed himself off a cliff. Heselden's wife and family were left with a $427 million estate. And number 10 is testing unbreakable glass. On July 9th, 1993, 38-year-old Gary Hoy accidentally committed suicide by jumping out of a window on the 24th floor of the Toronto Dominion Centre in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Hoy was a lawyer for the Holden Day Wilson law firm and was entertaining a group of interns by proving that the glass window in the conference room was made of unbreakable glass. Why is that something that you brag about? Just who cares about the strength of the window? But this was not the first time. In fact, Hoy would regularly try to impress people by running and jumping onto the window only to bounce off of it unharmed. This time, however, the window's frame, weakened by the various other times Hoy had jumped onto it, gave out and sent Hoy and the window itself plummeting towards the street below. Hoy's death hit the law firm hard, since he was such a well-known and respected lawyer in Toronto, and eventually, without Hoy, the firm actually had to close its doors in 1996. But ironically, Hoy's point was actually proven true, as the glass did not shatter when he hit it. Instead, it just came out in one big piece and he wrote it down. The jury is still out on whether or not it was worth proving, though. Here's a suggestion: it wasn't. So, those are the 10 most embarrassing ways that people have died. But I want to know what you guys think of these stories. I mean, was it just bad luck, or were these people destined to end up just dying a terrible death? Leave a comment below because I'll be reading through them and I'll pin the best one to the top. But as always, thank you guys so much for coming by today. Remember to come back tomorrow and every weekday at exactly 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time because I'll have a brand new video for you. I'll see you then.